Welcome back to part 2 of the Excel hands-on. So, last time we made a category for each product, and for that we had this if clauses, then, and then another if clause within the if clause in the else case, and we made it over and over again, and this long chain of really manual work we didn't like. And now I will show you a faster way to do that. The thing is, the easiest way, and I cannot stress that enough, would be to just use a database in SQL, which would be much more efficient. However, I already told you, in the industry, in practice, people tend to use Excel because everything with computers is too sketchy for them, and Excel they just know how to use. And in Excel, we can do something similar, which databases offer us, and we can basically say, there's a table and there's another table, and now we want to look up where a certain value is in the other table and then find a value which corresponds to that certain value we just found. So we can join tables, so to say, together. This is the most used thing you will probably apply in management information systems when you use Excel as such a tool, and is another thing which you get asked sometimes in your if you apply for a job, because that's what industry partners often need. So if you say, I understand Excel, they usually think, okay, you know the formula VLOOKUP. Because if you know VLOOKUP, you can do almost everything. In Germany, VLOOKUP is called S-Verweis, and I don't know what it is in your language. As usual, just Google it or use formula insert function and find it out on that way. However, VLOOKUP is basically a function which helps us to mark a value, look into a different table, look where this value is in certain rows, and then give me corresponding values within that row. Why is it called VLOOKUP? Because we have a table, let's say this is our table, then we look in the column N, so vertically where a value is, let's say here, and then we look up these values besides it in the table. That's why in German it's called S-Verweis, because per Spalte Verweis to the right, or per vertical lookup to the right. That's what we need to do. And to do that, we first of all need such a second table. And that's where our help table or tab comes into play. Because we would need now to have all products be in this help table. To get all products, we could go to data, use the drop-down menu of our filter and check and write them all down, but it's quite manual again. For here, I have already all products down here, which you can copy by clicking on the first one, holding the left click button, holding it down, dragging the cursor down until you marked everything. Then let loose of the left button, hit Control C or Command C for the shortcut copy, go to the help table, go to the top left one and hit Control V or Command V for pasting. All right, now we have all products here, and now we just have to write beside them what category they are from. And gummy bears are sweets, as well as chocolate are sweets. Then bread is other foods or other food. I don't care right now. So I'm copying that, then pasting it to oat milk and mustard because there are other foods as well. But I have to rename mustard because in the data table I forgot to translate it and it's still called senf. Then cucumbers are vegetables, vegetables. And we copy that again for tomatoes. And then we have care cream, which is a drugstore item. There we go. Copy that again and pasting it. Oops. And pasting it here again. So what we now have is our lookup table. We now can look in that column, if we have a product from the left, is it this, 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 and once we find it, we go to the right and say, okay, then it's other foods. That's the idea. We have a certain value, look which value it is, and then go from that value to the right. Let's check that. First of all, we need another column. Let's call it category fast because we want to do it faster. Category fast. All right, and now this will use the VLOOKUP command. So we again start with, because we want to use a formula with the equal sign, and then hit in the text we need, so in order to identify the function, which would be in English VLOOKUP, but in my case, since I'm using German version, as Verweis. Then opening the brackets, and now we already get the hint how to use the formula. First of all, we need to tell the system what item we want to search in the other table, which is called then matrix. So let's first think about what we want to search in that help table. And in that help table, we want to find the product. So in that case, it's gummy bears. So that one for that line. And then we want to find, we use gummy bears and go to our help and now tell it which matrix we want to use. So where, in which table overall we want to find gummy bears. And we have to mark the full table, including the things we want to refer to. So we want to look up. That means not only column A, but A and B together is the matrix in which we search gummy bears in. Then we can hit semicolon again because we know the matrix, and then we have to tell the system, once we find gummy bears, which column we want to give back. So which index does the column have? Since Excel, in comparison to Python, does not count from 0 as most programs do, but it counts from 1 because it's a user-friendly program, if you want to say so, and people usually count from 1. Column A has the index 1, while column B has the index 2. Hence, if we do not want to refer gummy bears, but we want to get sweets back, so the category, it's not index 1, but index 2. So we want to get, we go in this matrix, find gummy bears, in that case it's the top one, and then we go to the second column to give that back, which is sweets. All right, now we give sweets back, but now there's a trick question here, which I always find kind of contradictory. You get the idea. That works out for me. Verwirrend in Germany. The thing is, we have two options. We can now use false or true, or wahr or falsch. And true is somewhat similar, and false is exactly the same. And for me, that's always a bit funny, because false sounds for me like it doesn't matter if they're equal, right? The equalness has to be if it's false, but it's exactly the other way around. If you type in falsch or false, that means the two values have to be exactly the same. So only if gummy bears is exactly gummy bears, exactly that value, you give it back. If you would use the other way, the true value or the var value, it would be enough if it's somewhat similar. And it's usually not used by text. It's more used if you have ranges of numbers. For example, if you say, I want to grade you, and use an Excel table and say like, with 50 or with 30 of 60 points, so 50% of points, you get exactly, you exactly pass the exam. And then with, I don't know, so at 30 points, with 35 points, you would get 3.5. Totally imaginary. Now do not nail me down on the numbers here. The thing is then, in the range between 40 and 35, if you would use true, it would still say, okay, then I'm closer to 40, and I'm getting you whatever then standing beside 40. So, for example, sweets. And if 35 and less, it would then be the other one. However, if I would use false as it is now, it has to be exactly 40. It has to be exactly 35. So I would have to write down each possible iteration of points you could get, while true would also use the closest number ranges. So depending on my use case, I would use the other one. For you, most of the time probably it's false, as it was for me in my work life, because I mostly use it as exactly that. Then we hit enter and hope everything works out. Well, it started out to work because gummy bears are sweets, chocolate are sweets, bread is other foods, soap is drugstore, everything fine. But what happened here? Why is gummy bears NV for not available or no value? I'm not sure what exactly, but in the end, not good. Well, I already know, but some of you might as well. But coming back to the last lecture, maybe there's a hint in. Because we had the $sign. Remember? We used $signs to log in either the column or the row or both. And we started off with a table ranging from A1 to B10, which is A1, B10. Exactly the table we want to look up gummy bears in. Then we go one row down, A2 to B11. Because we drag that automatically down, the row number goes up by 1, each we go down by 1 as well. Meaning, at this point, we look in the table A7 to B16, or more importantly, let's, for example, take that table. We look if tomatoes is in 11 to B20, and 11 to B20 is down here. So from that point on, we have no chance of finding the item anymore. Hence, we would need to log down the lookup table from A1 to B10, and it's not allowed to change. So coming back to our formula, that means at least $1 here, but if you want to be 100% sure, make a $sign everywhere and everything should work. So far, that led to the point where we found the most, but I still have some NVs for oat milk. So let's look what went wrong here. And I can see it already. I should have written it as it is written in the dataset. And now everything's fine. We can make that column a bit larger, and we found everything we need to find. All right, that's VLOOKUP. That's the most important table, because our help table is made up by us, but sometimes it's a different table and you want to join the values. So for example, you want to know how much transactions were made in a certain store, and you have to join the store and the transactions tables together and stuff like that. Coming to exercise. Now it's your turn to use the VLOOKUP or SVerweis, as it's here standing, function on your own. I want you to use that prices, copy them first of all here, and then use that to write a price besides that. So these gummy bears have cost, this chocolate has cost, and I want that column here so we can do calculations with that once we have the prices there. Your turn. We see the results in the solution in the next video.